If you are thinking about picking one up, I just want to walk you through my experience using it as a folding electric bike for real errands, short commutes, and some weekend rides when I did not feel like dealing with traffic or parking. What it is, in plain terms, is a compact electric bike with a frame that folds in the middle, fat tires, suspension front and back, and a motor that has enough push to feel useful in day-to-day riding. For me, it fits the kind of riding where you want something you can store in an apartment, put in a car, or tuck out of the way at home, and still have a ride that does not beat you up on rough pavement. The reason this one stood out to me is the combination of folding plus the thicker tires and dual suspension. A lot of folding bikes ride stiff, especially on broken streets. This one feels more like it wants to handle potholes and uneven sidewalks without making you tense up. It is not a mountain bike, but it is more forgiving than the typical small-wheeled folder. Right out of the box, it looks modern and it feels solid in the main frame area. Mine is the white and black colorway, and the first thing I noticed when I lifted it is the weight. It is not a light bike. You can move it around, but you feel it. Once it is rolling, that weight matters a lot less. When you are carrying it upstairs, you will care. When I folded it and tried to lift it into my car, I could do it, but I had to think about my grip and my back. If you know you will be carrying it often, that is something to be honest about. Assembly for me was pretty normal for an electric bike that ships mostly built. I installed the handlebars, the front wheel, the pedals, and the seat. Then I checked bolts and adjusted the brakes. The instructions got me there without drama, but I still took my time because I always assume things can be slightly out of alignment after shipping. It took me under an hour, including a basic once-over. One small thing I did not love was the wiring near the battery and controller area. On my bike it was not as tidy as I would have preferred. It did not cause problems in use, but visually it looks a little messy, and I had to make sure nothing was rubbing in a way that could wear over time. In daily use, the folding process is straightforward. The frame latch is simple, the handlebars fold down, and the pedals fold in. I can fold it fast enough that it does not become a chore. The folded shape is compact enough for an elevator and for the back of a sedan, and that is how I used it most. I would drive to a spot where parking is easier, then ride the last stretch. For apartment living, it is also easier to live with than a full-size bike, because I can store it without turning my place into a bike rack. On the road, the motor is the part you feel immediately. This bike is rated at 750 watts with higher peak output, and what that means in real life is it pulls away from a stop with confidence. In stop-and-go traffic, I did not feel like I was struggling to get up to speed. The throttle response on mine was quick, but not jerky. It has that electric push that makes riding feel less like a workout and more like transportation. I never felt out of control, but I did respect it, especially on tighter paths or around pedestrians. Top speed depends on conditions, battery level, and how much you are helping. On a flat road with a healthy battery, I saw speeds in the high 20s in miles per hour. That is fast enough that I was glad it has decent brakes and built-in lights. If you are used to cruising on a normal bicycle, that speed feels like a different category, and you should ride accordingly. The battery on this one is a removable 48-volt 10-amp-hour pack. The company range claims are broad, and my real range was more grounded. On mostly flat rides with some starts and stops, a few small hills, and a mix of throttle and pedal assist, I was usually closer to 20 to 25 miles before I started thinking seriously about charging. If I bobbied it, pedaled more, and stayed calmer with acceleration, I could stretch it. If I rode hard, used throttle a lot, or dealt with wind and hills, it dropped faster. Cold weather also made it drain quicker. That part did not surprise me, but it is worth saying out loud because it changes how you plan your ride. The removable battery is genuinely convenient. I could lock it, pop it out, and bring it inside to charge without hauling the whole bike upstairs. That was a big quality of life thing for me. If you are in an apartment, that alone can decide whether you actually use the bike regularly. Comfort is where I ended up appreciating this bike the most. The fat tires are about 20 inches in diameter and about 3 inches wide, and combined with front and rear suspension, the ride is noticeably smoother over cracked pavement, potholes, and gravel. I ride on streets that are not well maintained, and this setup took the edge off in a way that made me ride more often. It is not magic. You still feel big hits, but the constant vibration that usually wears you down is reduced. Fit is also flexible. The seat height and handlebar height adjust enough that I could get a comfortable position without feeling cramped. I am around 5 feet 9 inches tall, and it fit me well. I also had a friend who is shorter try it briefly, and they were able to get comfortable after a few adjustments. The riding position is more upright, which I prefer for commuting because I can see traffic and stay relaxed. For pedaling, it uses a Shimano 7-speed system. I do not treat this as a performance bike, but those gears matter when you hit a hill or when you want to keep your pedaling natural at different speeds. On moderate hills, the motor plus lower gears kept me moving without feeling like I was grinding. On very steep hills, I could still get up, but I had to help more with my legs to keep momentum. You can feel where the combination of gearing and motor support reaches its limit, especially if you are heavier or carrying a bag. The controls are easy to live with. The assist controls and throttle are where I expect them to be, and the display is a color liquid crystal display that shows the information I actually check while riding, like speed, battery level, and assist mode. At night, I appreciated that I could dim the screen so it was not distracting. It also has a universal serial bus port. I tried it once when my phone was low, and it worked well enough for a top-up during a ride. I would not plan my whole day around charging from the bike, but it is helpful in a pinch. There is not really a mobile app experience here in the way some other electric bikes have. Personally, I did not miss it. I care more about whether the bike starts every time, rides predictably, and is easy to charge. If you are someone who wants ride tracking and settings through an app, you should know this is mostly a simple, on-bike control setup. Braking on mine has been consistent. It uses mechanical disc brakes front and rear. They are not fancy, but they did the job. I tested them on a longer downhill, and they stayed predictable as long as I used good braking habits. The rear light brightens as a brake light when you pull the lever, and the headlight is bright enough that I felt comfortable being seen on evening rides. Built-in lights matter more than people think, because it removes the excuse of forgetting your clip-on lights. Now for the stuff I did not love. The weight is the big one. It is manageable, but it is not something I would want to carry up multiple flights of stairs every day. The battery range is also realistic rather than generous. For my use, it was fine, but if you plan to ride long distances daily, you are going to think about charging more often, or you might want a larger battery. I also wish the pedals had more grip. On dry days, they were fine. When it was wet, or when I wore smoother shoes, I noticed my foot could slip if I was not careful. That is a small upgrade I would personally make. Build quality overall has been good where it counts, meaning the frame feels sturdy and the bike does not rattle itself apart. The finish and small details are not as refined as more expensive bikes, and I noticed that in areas like cable routing and some cosmetic touches. Nothing about that stopped me from riding it, but I want to be honest about the level of fit and finish. So after real riding, where do I land? I think the Jasion EB7 2.0 makes sense if you want a folding electric bike that feels steady on rough streets, is comfortable enough that you will actually use it, and has enough power to handle city riding without feeling strained. It has practical strengths like a removable battery and built-in lights, and it folds down small enough to fit into regular life. The trade-offs are the weight, a range that depends a lot on how you ride, and a few small parts that feel average rather than special. If you have been using one of these, or you are considering it, and you have questions about something I did not cover, leave a comment, and I will try to help based on what I have actually experienced. If you want more honest reviews like this, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.